Howdy folks, I'm Keen-Eyed Kitsune, knowingly kidnapping klutzy kids.
I'm Amber.
That's what you do as a fox spirit thing. You kidnap kids, I guess. So let's start in on that. Speaking of kidnapping kids, am I the jerk for showing my kids the bills? I'm a 48-year-old male, and my friend, a 45-year-old female, have kids around the same age, 2 teenagers each. Last time I spoke to her, it was before a party that we were both going to, that she said that her daughter was probably going to make it too late because her daughter was taking a long time in the shower. I told her that my kids used to take long showers too, until we started showing them the water bill, and at least one of them started taking shorter showers so it wouldn't cost as much. Personally, I don't see showing them as a bad thing, because sometimes they do need to see how much they're costing us as parents. My friend responded that I was making them anxious. I thought that it was a bit of a leap, as I talk a lot about how much their clothes, food, and other wants cost openly. And me and my husband make pretty good living too. So we started debating about it for a little bit, and then we dropped it. This has been lingering on my mind for a bit, so posting here to see if I was the jerk. All right, folks, what do you think?
I think this depends partly on when OP started sharing this with the kids. Like, I know they're teenagers now. And there is a certain age at which it is important for kids to learn, like, how household finances work. Like, I feel like OP's treading a fine line, and my answer depends kind of like, if OP started this when they were like 7, then that I feel very different from than if OP sat them down when they were 15 and was like, oh, by the way, this is our water bill. And it depends on how OP framed it too, whether it was kind of a teaching moment or a guilt tripping moment.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard because, like, if you do have, like, money insecurity problems and stuff like that, or things do cost money, like, it does require, like, families to work together to kind of keep costs down. Like, I do know, like, there, and I do agree, like, it's a fine line type of thing. Like, when I was growing up, like, I was always aware. My parents never really talked about it, right? But I was always aware that we didn't have a lot of money, right? And so, some of the things that, like, would clue me in on it is, like, if my sister used too much jelly, for instance, right? Like, my parents would get upset and be like, yeah, I can't use that much jelly, right? And, those kinds of things. Or, one time, like, if or my parents got mad at me for, like, a little bit of toothpaste that wasn't dissolved in the sink or something like that. Like, oh, that's a waste of toothpaste type of thing, right? So you become, like, aware, like, through these little subtleties that, you're not necessarily doing well financially. And so I think that can cause kids, like, some level of discomfort, but also, like, if you can't afford things, you can't afford things, right? So but it doesn't sound like OP and their husband are actually having any financial issues. It's more like they just want to make them cognizant of how much things cost, which I do think is important for people who are going to eventually be out in the real world too, right?
Yeah, so that's why, like, this is just like an open question for me, because when done well, it can teach kids important life skills, but when done poorly, it can create a lot of financial insecurities. I mean, I know I have some weird things about money from, the way I grew up, and, like, it was a mixture of things that remained unsaid that I just kind of knew, but there were also things I was clued into that I probably shouldn't have been. I mean, one of my parents has a lot of financial anxiety and would, like, tell me things that, like, you don't need to tell kids.
Yeah. So I do think, like, I agree. Like, there is a fine line here. I'm not sure what is exactly appropriate, and I think it really depends on how OP said it and how OP discusses these things. Because if it's, like, causing their kids to, have a worse quality of life because they're, needlessly trying to save their parents' money, not that, like, saving and, being conservative of resources isn't a good thing, because it's a great thing. It really is, right? But again, like, there is a fine line between being like, hey, we shouldn't run so much water because it's, bad for the environment, and also, like, it costs a lot of money, and if you run a lot of water, we're going to be pouring on the streets type of thing, right? Like, there's a difference. But let me know what you folks think. So anyhow, take care and good luck. And Llama Corn says, not the jerk. Kids need to learn the value of money. They need to learn how to budget. They need to become self-sufficient adults. but they also need love and kindness. So as long as your delivery was kind and to educate, you're all good. And Artsy Girl and Cat says this is the answer. Teens need to be educated about finances so that they'll know how to function when they grow up. It's that simple. So long as you're not guilt tripping them about how much each little thing costs, not the jerk. And Upshaw15 says, exactly. There's a big difference between teaching awareness and making them feel like a burden. Sounds like OP handled it the right way. And Narcaster says, it's not only about money, don't forget about overconsumption and wasting resources. Just because you can afford it doesn't mean you should consume more. And that right there, I think, is a great point. Alright folks, and our next letter is titled, Am I a Jerk for Refusing to Pay a No-Show Fee I Didn't Know Existed? I'm on vacation in Italy and I found a chef who provides cooking classes on Instagram a few weeks ago, and I booked with him. He works with his wife and she gave me all the info to book. She said payment was required up front and I was expected to be wiring their location. I did not feel comfortable doing this at all, as it has happened to me before with upfront payments that I ended up being scammed. So I told her that I would rather pay in cash the day of. She was very nice and said typically they did not accept this, but was willing to give me the benefit of the doubt to let me book. I was so excited. When we arrived in town, I sent another email to check if everything was booked correctly, and she confirmed. Well, the day of came, and in the morning we were out. I had no reception. Well, when we got back to our villa, I noticed the chef's wife had sent me 2 emails and 1 Instagram DM. One to tell me that they were waiting for us and to tell her that if we needed anything. The other one, 20 minutes later, telling me that they emailed me and that I wasn't responding. And the last one saying that they were leaving as we were too late. I wasn't responding because I had no reception, but I also panicked reading that. I had booked for 11 a.m., but I got my plans all mixed up and was positive that the cooking class was at 3 p.m. I know that it was my mistake entirely, and I replied to her apologizing a million times and telling her what happened, and asking how we could reschedule and if we could still come at 3. This is when the issue came about. They said that they were all booked out at different locations and different times. So there was nothing that she could do to help us. At best, she could send us the recipes after being paid. I was so confused about the payment and asked what that was all about. She then sent us an invoice charging us half of the cooking class and said that she was actually being nice, charging only half just for the recipes, so that we would not feel like we were paying for nothing. I was baffled because, yeah, I know that it was my mistake and I apologized, but I had no idea that this is how it works. What if someone gets sick and they can't come? Anyways, now I'm thinking of an appropriate way to handle this, but I just feel like I shouldn't have to pay for something that I didn't attend. If they work with tourists, they should know stuff happens. My friend said that it's ridiculous of them to expect us to pay, and I should just stop replying to them because they're trying to push money off on me. All right, folks, what do you think?
Yes, OP, you are absolutely the jerk, and this is why they expect money up front. First of all, you're throwing in a bunch of hypotheticals. Maybe they would have cut you more slack if you were actually sick.
Yeah.
But you're not sick. You lost track of time and scheduling. That is on you. This is how they make their living. And, if people flake out on them a lot, that's wasted time that they, now they can't make money from if they don't have these cancellation policies.
Yeah.
Like, it's very standard when you have an appointment somewhere, like a medical appointment or something, for them to say if you cancel within 24 hours of the appointment, you're going to be charged a fee. And so it's no different than that.
It's very, very standard, right? Like if you go to a hotel and you book and you want to cancel within 24 hours, they will usually charge you amount of money. And then like you said, certain medical appointments and other things, there are a lot of places that have this kind of policy. And if OP had any questions, they should have looked into the refund policy and the policies in general for this place, right? But it's clear that they didn't do their work. And just because OP didn't make the appointment doesn't mean that they didn't lose out on income, right? Mm-hmm. So it isn't fair to them when their livelihood depends on people making these appointments. I'm sure if they couldn't make, they can't earn their money any other time, like at that time, right? That time is burnt because they were waiting for you.
Mm-hmm.
You paid for that time block. That's really what it boils down to. And just because you didn't show up to that doesn't mean that they should get punished for that.
Mm-hmm.
But let me know what you folks think. So anyhow, take care and good luck. But folks, let's see what the Wheel of Judgment has to say. Wheel of Judgment, turn, turn, turn. Tell us the judgment that OP's earned. Everyone needs therapy, including me.
I mean, odd choice.
Yeah. Odd choice indeed. Odd choice indeed. OP apparently needs therapy because they can't make it to their appointments on time.
Yes, and apparently that's been so traumatizing that we all need therapy.
Yes. Wheel, were you even paying attention? I don't think you were.
I don't think so.
And Scoth says, you're the jerk. You messed up. Stop acting like a child and accept the responsibility like an adult. And Jurassic Park Food says, you're the jerk. They trusted you, sold you their time instead of selling it to other people. And you missed out because of your own error. You're entirely at fault. You owe them for their time, and 50% of the cost is very reasonable. Take some accountability for your mistake and pay them. And Prior Lobster 5240 says, you are a monumental jerk. They put time aside for you, and they lost money because of your stupidity. Yes, you need to pay them. You're the jerk. And Emph says, you're the jerk. This is a problem created by you. You already messed them over by not paying up front, and you won't even pay the no-show fee. How shameless. Alright folks, and our next letter is titled, Am I a Jerk for Making My Friends Pay for Their Dinner, even though I could have done it for free? I'm a 29-year-old male, and my childhood's best friend's dad, a 60-year-old male, owns a restaurant in my hometown. My actual childhood best friend, Tony, a 29-year-old male, now lives in another country, so I don't get to see him that often. Tony's parents and my family, as well as myself, all still live in our hometown, so I run into his dad a lot. Our parents are also pretty good friends. I visit his restaurant pretty often, and whenever he sees me, he's always giving me free food and telling me not to pay, but I always feel guilty because I know he's trying to retire soon, from the discussions I've had with Tony. Well, I went to dinner at his restaurant with 3 of my other friends, all 20s and 30s. It was kind of crowded, and I know that his dad is usually not there at night and has his staff running the place, so I thought that I could avoid him. But I was wrong. He was there. Halfway through our meal, I see his dad, but luckily he didn't see us as the place was crowded. We paid the check, split the bill 4 ways, and we got up to leave the place. On our way out, his dad saw me and ran up and gave me a hug. Then he said in a joking voice that he was upset at me for not telling him that I was there, and that he said, had I known that you were bringing your friends, I would have never made you and your friends pay. I said that was sweet and all, and we just made some small talk and left. Well, on the way back to my place, one of my friends, Alex, a 31-year-old male, got really ticked off and said, what in the world, dude? Why did you make us pay when you could have gotten it for free? And then I told him that it makes me uncomfortable and his dad is trying to retire. Alex said that it's not my business and I had no right to make everyone pay when they could have had the option of getting it for free. And I shouldn't have made that decision for them. All right, folks, what do you think?
No, not the jerk, and Alex is being very entitled here. This was not an offer made for Alex in general. Like, this was an offer for OP due to OP's relationship with this man. And it is very entitled to expect OP to use that relationship to get them a free meal.
Yeah. Well, and also, like, I know that the guy, it feels like he would do this for free for OP, but he's running a business, right? And OP's right. You know, every dollar that he doesn't get to earn from this business is one less dollar he has towards retirement. And I think that this is part of the reason why he likes OP so much, is that OP isn't trying to mooch off of him or take advantage of him, right? They're good friends, and you don't take advantage of your friends, right? And it's always nice to know when you have somebody who isn't, you know, going to take advantage of you, right? And it was a really nice offer, but again, OP doesn't feel comfortable doing this, and part of the reason why he went at the time that he did is so that he wouldn't have to be confronted with this situation, right? But it's clear that OP still wants to support him and support his business too, right? So it's a fine line, and I feel bad because OP, of course, is, you know, been kind of put in a little bit of a position in that respect, but the guy is it has the best of intentions. It feels like he's not trying to do this to make life hard for OP. He's just he just really likes OP and thinks that he's a great person, best friends with the friend, right? But I do think that Alex needs to not be so entitled.
Mm-hmm.
But let me know what you folks think. So anyhow, take care and good luck. And JRM 1102 says, not a jerk at all. I would almost make you a jerk for assuming that you would get a free meal for the group. Your friend was being rude and greedy. And OP replies, the thing is that our families are extremely close. When I was in college, his dad even gave me their old car that they weren't using anymore when mine got totaled. Literally every single time I go into the restaurant, he gives me twice the food that I ordered without me paying a cent. So I knew, without much doubt, that he would give us a free meal if he knew I was there, which is why I went at the time that I did, since it would be less likely that he would be there, because I don't want to take advantage, All right, folks, it is tea time. Grab your beverages of choice. I've got some tea right here. And Amber, she has a joke.
Why do felines love Jeopardy?
Well, because they always get perfect answers on everything.
And because it has categories.
Ah.
And it is National Black Cat Day.
So go find yourself a good friend, black cat, and give them a nice treat. That's what I say. And I have Mega Mint. All right, folks, that's all the time we have for today. Thank you so much for watching. Happy Manic Monday, folks. I hope your Monday is off to a great start. Amber, we need some kind of moral advice and or guidance, and please have it on money.
Just because you can get something for free doesn't mean you should get something for free.
Agreed. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you all tomorrow.
Bye.